How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? And welcome to episode number 63 of the Casual Gamecast, a weekly video game podcast for the everyday gamer, brought to you by the team at Casual Game Content. I am, of course, your host, Phil Keogh, and we have got a show for you guys this week. As per usual, we're going to talk about what we've been playing this week, then we're going to have a look at what's coming up in the week ahead, and by golly, there is not a lot coming up in the week ahead, but we are going to take a quick break after that and get into the meat and potatoes of this week's episode. Yes, that's right, our topic of this week, as you've probably seen from the thumbnail, is Game Awards. Okay, we're going to talk all things Game Awards. First of all, we're going to have a very quick look at what we think of the nominees, and I've got a couple of opinions, and I'm sure my guests do here too. But the main topic is, are Game Awards necessary? I think this is something that we can certainly wax poetic on a little bit, because we've kind of gone to this nebulous point where it was cool at first, and now I think we've had enough time with Game Awards to kind of really objectively look at them as the everyday gamer, not experts, but just as who we are, and go, is this constructive? Is this something we really need? Like, you know, let's dive in. But without any further ado, I'm going to go around the room, and I can see, if you are joining us here on YouTube, we are joined by the wonderful Shane Bowe. Hello, Shane.
Hello.
And how are you, my fine friend?
I am very well, thank you very much. And yourself?
Sure, I'm only grand. Now, with that, let's not put the horse out before the cart, or the cart out before the horse, whatever way they say that. Let's get straight into it. We are joined, of course, by the wonderful Johnno AKA 4-Leaf Gamer. Hello, sir. How are you now?
What's happening?
Johnno, where might people know you from?
I stream over on Twitch at 4-Leaf Gamer.
You do indeed. And also a regular compadre of the Allcast Irish Gamers.
Yes, for every second Wednesday, and I don't know, we might be changing it to every Wednesday. We're talking about it. For the Herds of Nerds, where we just talk about everything kind of nerdy and geeky.
Yep. And dear God, do I love to talk about nerdy and geeky stuff, as we all know. But it's absolutely a pleasure to have you on, Johnno, and I can't wait to hear about what you've been playing and or streaming, and I'm looking forward to hearing both of you beautiful boys take on the Game Awards and Game Awards in general. Oh, you stop.
No,
now,
you stop.
Let's dive right into it, folks, shall we? So, generally how we kick this show off is, what are you playing? So, play that thing.
Alright, stranger. What are you playing?
Now that we have played the stinger, boys, we're going to dive right into it. So, eagle-eyed viewers of the YouTube feed, and I'll paint a picture for anybody who's listening in the audio world. On our new layout, we have myself, we have Shane, we have Johnno, but we have a fourth panel. And yes, my friends, that is showing some kind of gameplay. And right now, we are showing Skyrim Anniversary Edition gameplay, because I was streaming that during the week. And wouldn't you know it, this is the first game we're going to talk about this week. So, guys, I have to tell you, I have been playing some Skyrim AE over the past week. Have either of you guys dipped your toes into this at all?
No.
Okay.
I still play Legacy Skyrim with a shit ton of mods.
Guess what? It's Legacy Skyrim still.
I'm shocked.
They did nothing. They did nothing. It is absolutely... Like, if you put one screen with Special Edition and then put one screen with Anniversary Edition and had two people just play the games, they're pretty much the same. There is no difference. The fact that they packaged it up with like mods that other people made and sold that is so sickening to me. And all those same bugs that were present from 10 years ago that the community fixed again and again and again are still there. And in fact, the Anniversary Edition breaks the patch that people have been modding into it for 10 years. So it's a bizarre situation. However, it was a good excuse to jump back in. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Yeah, how dare people fix my game?
Yeah, the cheek of them. When do we say enough is enough? Like, when do we go, Todd Howard, enough is enough. We are done with Skyrim. Just, I don't know, the next time you release Skyrim again, we're going to, I don't know, maybe set fire to your car or something.
Wow.
Damn.
You do realize if Todd Howard has like a car fire within the next week, you are straight up there. You're straight up there.
Yes.
That's Shane Bowe, lad. I mean, what the?
The CIA just comb YouTube like, we got him. Yeah, I don't know, Shane. Like, I think I was okay with the idea of it coming back. Going, are they? Because they said it was going to be the next gen upgrade. They said it made me think, it's going to be nice. You know, like there'll be nice little lighting differences, or there'll be something. I could not tell the difference, and I was literally playing SE the week before, so like vanilla to vanilla, like just to compare, and no, they just didn't do a thing. So I don't think we need to like spend too much time on that. It's just a bit disappointing, but it's not the only disappointing return to video games this week. But I digress. Let's go around to somebody else. Shane, I do believe that the legacy of Far Cry 6 has finally come to a close.
It has come to a close just this very week.
Dear
Phil.
God.
This very, very week.
The
it has
Odyssey.
come to a close. Yes, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's a popcorn game, like I've said before. I got to relieve my stresses from work by just shooting dudes and, sneaking around bases and stabbing guys in the neck or whatever.
You are getting more and more worrying as this podcast goes on, my friend.
Yes, I am. One thing I will say...
Do you live in Limerick, and is this happening in real life or in a video game?
I don't know anymore. I can't tell the difference anymore.
They don't deserve Shane.
We're gonna get hate mail from Blind Boy now.
But no, sorry. So you've been using your masochistic rage to get yourself through Far Cry 6.
Yes, and it's been fun. And now that I've finished the game, they do this whole Ubisoft thing where they're like, "Oh, you've finished the game, but now you can keep playing because of this." So the game is broken up into like kind of 3 distinct provinces as such.
Okay.
And then each province is broken up into maybe 3 areas roughly. Mm-hmm. So anyone who wants to do quick maths on that can. I'm not doing it. But now that you've finished the game, what happens is like the main bad guys' forces or whatever, they recapture one of the areas like each week. And they take back over all the bases you've captured and all the checkpoints and all this kind of stuff. And then you have to... There's some mysterious general, and in order to find out who he is and his location to kill him, you have to go and take back all the bases again, and you get a little piece of information each time. It's just something to try to keep you ingrained while they sell you more crap. I did it the first one, it was fine.
I mean, San Andreas done that, 10 years ago? 12 years ago? Maybe 15 years ago?
Yeah, so like is it a thing, like is there a real world clock ticking by? You said every week, like, so does that mean like I capture 10 places and then this day next week I will only have 5 of them? Is that what you're saying?
So every week a different area of the map is taken over.
Okay.
So
it's like a public event or something, or but in a single player game.
But in a single player game, yeah. Okay. So the map's taken over, and that gives you a week to recapture the bases, find out who the mysterious general is, and assassinate.
Gotcha.
If you don't do it in the week, it is moved to a new province, and that's your own lookout that you didn't do it that week. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
And it gives you a different type of currency that you can spend in their kind of... You know the way these games all come with like 30 different types of currency.
Sure.
It's not the regular money, it's like special money for the special store where you buy the special stuff.
Okay.
It's the crap you don't need. But look, it's done now. I'm finished. I have finished playing Far Cry. I have moved on to a different game, which...
Julius Caesar, up or down?
I'm going to say up for the fun I had.
Thumbs up.
In terms of like a game, it's another regurgitated Far Cry game. But I had fun.
Right.
And that is the main thing that I like to take away from
That was the objective.
Did I have fun or not?
Yeah.
And the objective was met. I did play something else this week, but I'm going to wait until you talk about the second thing you played, and then that ties in. Sure.
Well, I wanted to go around to Leafy and talk about a very specific game, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity to leverage, because I think Johnno brought up a good point there that San Andreas did that mechanic back in the day, and I've been playing some San Andreas. As we know, 11.11 was the return of not only Skyrim, but also GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition. It's like going into a time machine, lads. It's not good. It's not good.
I mean, really I think at this stage both Rockstar and Bethesda have to say, right guys, we can't top these games. So we're going to cut it at what we have and make a new game, like an entirely new franchise. Because
completely.
And like, Elder Scrolls 6 is a myth. This is Half-Life 3 all over again.
Yeah.
It's not like, and the reason why they keep releasing the same game, in my opinion, is their developers, their storyboard, their entire fucking team knows, how the fuck do we top this? This is critically acclaimed cult masterpiece. Like, we're not going to beat it.
Yeah, like I share some of that opinion, in the sense that, like, I think that there is a reason to re-release these things, in terms of, like, if you look at their release calendar over the past 20 years or however long Rockstar's been making games now, like, you know, the distance between games gets larger and larger, and we are to blame for that in a lot of ways, because we are the ones that keep telling Rockstar when the new GTA and Red Dead and whatever comes out, and we buy it hand over fist, and we tell them that it's amazing because you've such a well realized, detailed world, and every generation that gets harder and harder and harder to top up. Like, I think, in all honesty, every time a new generation comes out, unless we as the consumers can say, no, we're happy with, like, you know, a GTA to come out that isn't like as visually impressive as the last one, or isn't as involved as the last one, if we could as a community come together and say we're okay with that, I think we'd see more of them. But realistically, they're trying to, as you said, you know, cross that bar of the last one. But I think that, like, there is a space to still release these older ones and up-res them, and I think, like, I did want to like them.
I agree with you. But why not take Grand Theft Auto 1 and Grand Theft Auto 2 and completely reimagine them, and not relabel it as a remaster, but tell it as the story anew. So it was Grand Theft Auto London. Why not just make Grand Theft Auto London with modern day graphics?
No, completely.
Fuck me, that would be amazing.
And I think that, like, there was a huge opportunity missed there to not do that even in GTA Online. But that's a whole other conversation. And I think, we'd all lap that up. But, like, I still think that if they had have put a moniker more effort into these re-releases, it would have been absolutely fine, and I would have been quite happy with it. Like, I was okay with the fact that they just up-res the old games. Like, that, I'm completely fine with that. I'm like, okay, I wish that they didn't take the other versions off the stores, mind you. But, like, I'm perfectly fine with the fact of, I want to play San Andreas again, and I have done on the PS2 this year. And give me a version of it that looks really nice on my PS5 with better lighting, ray tracing, and all that kind of stuff. Like, cool, yeah, whatever. That sounds pretty good. And then I went into it with that frame of mind. I wasn't expecting a brand new game. I was just expecting, you know, what they promised. And man, like, they really dropped the ball on it. Like, it's so obvious that it's the mobile port that they started on. Like,
I mean, I can't say
bare bone honest.
I can't say it, and I refuse. Majority of the time, I refuse to re-buy into something like that. I mean, I still have the originals behind me up here.
Oh, I have them too. But like, I have such a love for this franchise that I was like, benefit of that. And I haven't bought this. Like, this came on Game Pass, so like,
it's on Game Pass.
San Andreas is on Game Pass, and I believe GTA 3 is going to be on PS Plus this week. But
I mean, in that case,
and that's how you play it.
Download it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, dude, it's worth a download. It's worth seeing. Just as a kind of an oddity, you know, like, I fully endorse anyone watching this or anyone listening to this. If you have Game Pass or PS Plus, or not PS Plus, PS Now, do check them out and just see how badly they've messed it up, because it's worth doing. And then you will feel no FOMO about dropping 50 or 60 quid, whatever it is, on that collection. But yeah, it's a pity. Bugs out the yin yang, the textures, like, there's times I thought it was going to be good at the beginning, and then the more I kept playing it, like, there's times when it looks lovely. Like, they added in, like, kind of reflections on some of the textures, so, like, you can see the kind of lovely San Andreas sun, you know, basking and reflecting back at you in this, you know, the windows of the shops as you drive down the strip, and, like, there's some really nice effects going on. But then the models look terrible, and, like, my character, I put tattoos on him, and the tattoos were hovering like 2 inches above his skin. And like, there was like so many things. It's just like, wow, you really didn't test this at all. And what kills me is two things, and I'll drop it after this. Is like, the first thing that kills me is they just announced this like 2 months ago. Like, they could have easily said, we're going to be bringing this out, you know, next year or whatever, and put some time into it and make it good. But they chose not to, because they knew people would buy it. And then number two, like, of all the things, like, of all the companies, they can't turn around and say, we just didn't have the funds. We just didn't have the funds to make it any better. Yeah. It's like, they're the most rich gaming company out there. You know, so, like, I don't know. But it's a disappointment. But, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
You hit the nail on the head, though. As consumers, we are now at a stage where we no longer are willing to wait for a full game. Mm-hmm. Instead of closed beta testing, which up until maybe 2 years ago, I was still beta testing and alpha testing games for companies. Like, I can go onto all the email addresses, and I must have about 15, 20 NDAs that are probably still in effect. Like,
yeah.
And that has, in my opinion, completely diminished the effect of games. Now, in indie games, it's more acceptable because an independent developer just doesn't have the funds to go, here, X, Y, and Z, play these for me and tell me what it is. But like you just said, Rockstar, one of the biggest, if not the biggest name in gaming for the past 10 years, they definitely have the money.
Completely. Yeah, and it didn't even need to be beta tested. It just needed to, like, have their own QA look at it for, like, a month and go, like, let's look at the list of bugs that are blatantly obvious and say, no, we can't release this as a product. Anyway, we'll go down a hole if we spend any longer on this, but yeah, it's disappointing. And I'm the one guy here that would have fought for it, but no, it's disappointing. But what's not disappointing, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Johnno, is Diablo 2 as a bringing back into the modern era. Tell me now.
Chef's kiss.
Are you gonna give it a Salt Bae?
A little bit of this. Yeah,
Tell me all about it.
I've been playing it since day one. I've been playing it since just Diablo 2, and when Lord of Destruction came out, I just gave it an entire lease of life. When I was a couple of years into it, I was ranked in the top 100 for barbarians in Europe. Like, that's how much effort I put into this game, and it's just given it a new lease of life. If you press and hold G in Diablo 2, you see the old graphics, and you're like, no, it's not that bad. Then you load up an old game of Diablo 2, you're like, oh, it was that bad. Fuck.
Yeah. Like, it's nice that I gave you the option to talk about it.
They done it in Metal Gear Solid 4, I think it was, as well. Like, you could press and hold the button and it'd bring it back into all the style.
Wait,
and you're like, no, it's not that bad. And you're like, holy shit, it fucking was.
Metal Gear 4? Metal Gear 4 had that one level where you went back to Shadow Moses.
Yeah, you could. That gave you the option to change your graphics around. As far as I don't know
about that. I'll have to check that. But I do like.
There was definitely old graphics when you go back to it.
There's like a flashback.
Maybe it was just a flashback. I'm thinking of. But I definitely remember.
I have done that recently. Oh God! I'm going to finish this podcast and I'm going to shoot myself. All right, that's it. Editor, please put it in there. Whatever the quick Google search of this is. But it sounds like, in fairness, they knocked it out of the park. But I have to rewind for a moment here, John.
It's still buggy.
I do apologize. I have to press that button and show the ugly graphics myself, because I did a man dirty here on the podcast. I did a man dirty live here on the podcast. Shane, you said you wanted to talk about something when I talked about something, and I completely forgot. And I'm sorry, Shane. I do apologize. I'm hanging up my earphones and my microphone, and I'm just going to leave this to you, my friend. Please tell us, what were you playing?
I thought you were going to say I'm hanging up the call, like, you know.
Goodbye.
It's not that
bad. Committing Discord Sevaku, like, just like, I'm hanging up the
call. I will die on my microphone.
So when I finished Farcry, I game share with a friend, and my friend bought the GTA Definitive Edition, and I jumped straight into Vice City. Right.
The elusive Vice City, because that's the only one that isn't free.
Yes. Oh. Yeah. And Vice City is probably the one that, so GTA 3 is on PS now, GTA San Andreas is on Game Pass, and Vice City is the only one that's like, you have to buy the Definitive Edition.
That's the one the key demographic wanted to buy. So
yeah, exactly. Well, that way. So Vice City has been fine so far. Like, it does have that weird cartoonish sheen that they're after putting on this trilogy.
Yeah, very shiny.
Which I'm okay with. Like, out driving around the world is fine. It's a little framey sometimes. If you like maybe turn the camera too quick or something, or
San
the camera
Andreas
too
too.
fast. Yeah, it's a bit framey. I did notice there's a mission where you have to put on, like, you probably remember, you have to get dressed up in the golfer's outfit to go to the driving range and beat the crap out of the guy.
Yeah.
The minute I put that outfit on, for whatever reason, I stepped out of the store and I don't know what the word is for it. The character model, like the wire mesh of the character model that designers use, all the polygons and stuff, you can start to see it on like half his face. Like I felt like Terminator walking around the place with the missing skin. You can just see all like lines and polygons and all this kind of carry on as you were walking around the place. Only in that particular outfit.
And the weird thing is, like, that's one of the few outfits it makes you wear. So there's no way QA hadn't seen that.
Exactly.
I don't think, from what I've heard, QA even knew this existed.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Yeah. Actually,
Dude,
did you see that? Did you see that quote from the guy who's running the department that made it? Is it like, what's the name of the Grove Street Productions or something like that? They named themselves after the game, but like his tweet back on to, like, you know, respond to all the negative backlash was, this is fantastic, you know, I'm paraphrasing, you know, but this is fantastic that we're getting such engagement, and it's fantastic to get all of this feedback that we can now act upon. It's like, what do you mean feedback? You're just getting QA. That's like,
but that to me says that they've released this as a beta. If he's using terminology like feedback, they released this in full knowledge that there was severe issues.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Arsed paying people to find them.
No, there's no doubt. I'd hazard a guess that it's not even so much that they couldn't pay people to find them or that they didn't. I think it's more so Rockstar didn't have a massive GTA 5 release for this holiday, and shareholders gotta be paid, and it was just a case of, if we put this out tomorrow, regardless whether it's good or not, people will buy it. And they went, yep, and then people did buy it. So
it pains me the fact that you said there's not another big GTA 5 release.
Yeah. Well, they've been coasting on that for like 7 years now. You know?
Man, I worked in GameStop the night 5 launch on PS3.
Yep.
I mean,
I was
that
in
was
the queue.
A savage launch.
I was in
Like,
the queue. Yeah.
That's
the last game I went to a midnight launch for.
It's the last game most GameStops had a midnight launch for.
Yes.
Like, after GTA 5, they're just like, this just is not worth our while, because most places they have to pay for security. So like, it completely cut that out.
It was
anyway,
so,
I digress,
it was so lovely.
I will go down a rabbit hole here on just
Yeah.
giving out about Skyrim and GTA 5.
Yeah, let's not keep doing that. But Shane, you're like mildly positive on Vice City.
Yeah, I don't feel as negative as maybe you do about San Andreas. But then I've only played Vice City. I haven't looked at San Andreas yet, and I haven't looked at 3. I got reports from my friend that I game share where he's trying to 100% 3 because it's like his super nostalgia game, and he's having so many crashes that he's just like, he's finding it painful to even bother and try 100% it.
My negativity is not like, you know, that I hate this or anything. I just find that it's like unacceptable for a company that makes so much money and is so experienced and is known for polished video games to put something like this out and expect the community to just be okay with it. You know, that's my biggest thing here, is that like, it's not some indie, it's not whatever. Like, you get held to a higher standard when you go around, you name your company Rockstar, and you know, have a legacy of creating smash hit video games. And here's the thing, those 3 games are important. They're important for video game history, and they deserve better. You know, that's
definitely.
I think part of it with me was, until I seen that weird polygonal issue with the outfit or whatever, I hadn't played any Vice City since I played it when I was like whatever age I was when Vice City came out.
Oh, good save.
Like, I don't remember what age I was when Vice City came out, but I haven't played it since then. So I booted it up and I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty alright. This is fine for me. Like, I haven't played it in like 10-15 years or whatever. This is perfectly suitable for me. But I know a lot of people who like played the 2014 versions or played it with mods and stuff. It's absolute like ass fire completely.
Sure. Well, it's a pity, but what isn't ass fire is one of the best indie games released in the past couple of years, which is the infamous Dead Cells, and I believe our man Johnno has been streaming that lately.
Yeah, I recently got the Game Pass, so I was talking to Shane before. I only got a job there recently, and there's been so much that I have missed out on. I'm a massive indie gamer. I love indie games. I think indie games are the new AAA titles, because
Agreed.
AAA titles are just no longer doing it for me. And I would argue quite a lot of people, indie devs are putting so much thought, effort, and just emphasis on what games are now.
Yep, they're pushing boundaries.
Oh, definitely. Dead Cells is just fucking phenomenal, and I can see myself losing myself in this. Like,
Yeah.
I had to put a very hard limit last night because I knew I had a massive day in work today. I was like, no, you're done. You've done your hour stream. Go to bed.
Yes,
And I was like, put the controller down. Don't click A. Don't go to a new round.
It's one of those one more round games. And then, like, you also played through Hades recently. So, like,
Played
in
through.
comparison
I think
to
I
Hades,
put 100 hours into Hades in like in a month.
which one places higher, Hades or Dead Cells?
Hades, hands down. Hades is
yeah.
like,
It has
I'm
that
a
polish. It has that polish, you know?
No, Hades for me is just everything that I love in a video game. Especially an indie game. It's got absolutely amazing visuals that you just don't get anymore. I'm a sucker for cel shaded cartoon like, but not cartoon drawing. I think they just knocked that out of the park. Then the sound design was phenomenal, but just the creme de la creme for me was Darren Korb, I think it is. His soundtrack, holy fuck!
Oh,
just like
chef's kiss, fantastic.
Like, I nearly cried at some of them. Like,
Their
I'm a
whole back
big
catalogue
music
of
head.
games, like all of their soundtracks are just phenomenal.
Yeah,
and if you want any more background on that, friend of the show, Danny O'Dwyer, did a fantastic, as I brought up before, docuseries around that on YouTube, and I encourage everyone to go watch it. It's fantastic.
Please link me
Really
to that
well done.
afterwards. I'd love to
Oh,
watch
I
it.
will. Oh, I will.
I'm like, music for me makes or breaks a game.
Yeah.
And like, again, I was saying to Shane, like, I've done my masters in audio technologies, and I like majored in sound design. And for my undergrad, I done a video game, musical analysis of Final Fantasy VII.
Sweet.
So music and sound design for me are make and break for video games, and it just has everything.
Well, Supergiant got you covered. Now, before we move along and talk about what's coming up, I did want to touch off one more thing, because we are running on. We have to talk about it. Is Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite Halo Infinite got shadow dropped literally 2 days ago as of this recording. Xbox did a 20-year anniversary event where they did all sorts of things, talking about the history of Xbox and their place in gaming history and whatnot, and just decided, to hell with it, we're going to drop Halo Infinite's multiplayer today rather than in December. And I'm here to tell you, boys, Halo's back. Halo's back in a big way. It is really good, and I am not a Halo guy. It is great.
I'm really looking forward to it. A lot of my friends have already placed like they're like. I'm not a competitive. I'm a competitive gamer in terms of speedrunning. I like trying to beat times, but in terms of FPS, I'm not a competitive player. I just play for the fun. But I have a lot of friends that do enjoy the competitive scene of FPS games, and they've all ranked fairly high, and they said that it's a fantastic game. I can't wait to sink my teeth into it. I have to get a new hard drive for my PC before I do, otherwise I'm just going to fill the C drive up and just have no space for anything.
It is great that it's free to play, because anyone can kind of drop in and see if it's for them. But like, I've always had a problem with Halo, and I always had a problem with the fact that it felt like I was walking through molasses, and I felt like every jump was taking me half an hour to land, and then the whole time to kill was so long that, like, I don't know, I never got my head around it. But they've really tightened up a lot of stuff here. Their level design is fantastic. It feels a lot more like a modern shooter, whilst also still feeling like Halo. And the kind of, what's the best way of putting it, the kind of rock paper scissors mechanic of how to take somebody down is super addictive in this one. So like, if you have like a assault rifle, unless you get like every single bullet in that assault rifle into a dude, he's not going down. So you have to like work out, okay, if I put a load of bullets into him, then throw a grenade, then hit him at the elbow, and then move on. There's like it's tactical in a way that I finally understand, but it took them to really get to this point where it's now honed down to such a way that even me, walking in there that hasn't played a competitive shooter in a while, and of all of them haven't played Halo since 3, walked in and went, oh, this is really good. Oh, this is really, really good. So I encourage everybody at home to play it if they can. The one thing I will say, though, is because it has gone free to play, it now has a lot of microtransactions in there. And they do want you to spend money in there. And I did buy the Battle Pass, which is like their equivalent of the Fortnite €10 thing, which I'm fine with. I'm fine to pay a Battle Pass and unlock cosmetics. It gives me something to work towards. And I will work towards it. But it's really slow. It's really, really grindy to get those bits and bobs. It is all cosmetic, though, so you're not losing a damn thing by not paying it. You can just play, free out and just wear the normal stuff, and it's fine.
I'm not sure if Shane... I'm assuming you're GameStop, Shane?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure
if they are the retailer which cannot be named. This must be bleeped out in the edit.
Apologies.
63 episodes, we haven't said
it. So I'm assuming you haven't heard it because it was very warehouse that it came from. But generally, if you break down a game into hours, and if you are willing to pay €1 for every hour you would play a game, I don't mind paying it if it's a free-to-play game. If I'm going to get 10 hours, I don't mind paying a tenner.
Of course.
So in that sense, that's not too bad. But if it's like, buy this skin, no.
There is that in there too. Like they have the rotating store of Fortnite where it's like, here's a highlight of mad stuff you can buy this week, but it'll be gone next week, so you better buy it. So it's predatory in that sense, So like they're not completely clean-handed in this approach, like there is a little bit of that stuff in there, and I think kids will be I don't know, will kids move over to this? I don't think they will. I think that they will stick with their Fortnites and whatever, but like I know adults that are like looking at the skins in the store that are like €20 and going, I don't know, man, it's free to play, I may as well look cool, you know what I mean? And I'm always the first person to say a free to play game is still a game. Like if you say that like the other game that isn't free to play is worth 60 to you, why can't this be worth 60 to you? So spend what you want, and that's fair enough, but like it is kind of predatory the way they're doing it. Like
I think the biggest insult that they could do is if they put the Hayabusa helmet in it as a paid DLC. That's the honest truth, because you actually had to work. The Hayabusa helmet in 3 was the hardest unlockable item.
Yeah, that's 100% going to happen. I can guarantee you now that's going to happen.
If that becomes a paid DLC, if I enjoyed the game and that became a paid DLC, I'd stop there and then.
Well, I've seen that from what I understand, anything you can buy, you can eventually unlock with the battle passes, and I think that they're going to swap in content from season to season and week to week. So, eventually, if you're buying battle passes and you're grinding them out, I think you will not be wanting for stuff. But it's really for people, because like it takes me a night to go up one level, and there's like 100 levels in the battle pass, and I'm sure that's going to get harder as I go. So like they have said now, normally a season will last 3 months. Because they shadow drop this, they're adding like an extra 2, so it's like 4.5 months of time to get my 100 levels, which is very generous realistically. But yeah, we'll see. It's great for now. Guys. Go out there and play it, and just play the free to play thing, and just don't spend money you don't want to spend. But if you do want to spend money, don't feel bad about that either. Okay, moving the hell on. Now I know we've all played more games. I know we have, but we can't sit here all day. We have stuff to talk about. So with no further ado, let's take a very quick break and play me out there, Shane. And folks, we are back now. Shane and Aaron, who's listening and editing for us, I don't know if we ever got around to talking about having a stinger for this particular part of the show. If we have one, drop it in here now, and if we don't, I'm just going to say it's the topic of the show. Right, so now that that's out of the way, here we are. This is the meat and potatoes of the podcast, and as we said last week, we are transitioning into more of a topical podcast, and this week's topic is: are Game Awards necessary? Now, the reason we're talking about that is because this week the Game Awards nominees for 2021 have been released, and it got me thinking, we are so long in the tooth now of the Game Awards. We're a couple of years in. How do we feel about it at this point? Like, we've seen, it's had enough time to kind of show its true colors in some way, shape or form. And from the everyday gamer's perspective, which is what we bring here, how do we as a collective feel about it? Now, before we jump in, did anybody get a look at this year's Game Award nominees? Any strong feelings, positive or negative?
Not particularly. I just have it up here on the thing. I was just as you were chatting away there, I was just kind of flicking through, and you know, like I see one or two of them, like best action game, Returnal. Yeah, cool. That deserves to be in there for best action game. You know, so does Deathloop and whatnot. Like best narrative, you know, Life is Strange. Yeah, cool. Like a lot of stuff, I look at it and I go, yeah, that deserves to be there. That's all I kind of get from the Game Awards. I'm not a person that tends to sit down and watch the Game Awards in its entirety. I will catch the like half an hour YouTube highlights later, you know.
Yeah. I think last year we learned that's kind of the necessity. That's the pro move, is just to watch the highlights. But God Almighty, especially E3 last year was a chore. But even the Game Awards has gotten to that point. And like I want to be on its side. Like I want to have the spectacle thing, you know. But we'll get into that. I think Game of the Year, like I'm happy enough. Like I think that's the big one that we all have to like. That's the Keystone Award, isn't it? Like that's like who are we championing this year? And like I see we've got Psychonauts 2, I see we've got Metroid, I see we have Resident Evil Village, which is nice to see a horror game in there. Deathloop, I kind of expected to see that, given the reception it got. It Takes Two is one I didn't expect to see in Game of the Year. But you know, cool I guess to have a cooperative game in there. And Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, which again, I loved it. I didn't expect to see it in this list, but again, what do you put in there? The year 2021 has been fraught with, you know, COVID and delays and dev teams under pressure and games getting pushed out. So, you know, the one thing I will say is I really thought that this year would have more indies in the spotlight, because this was the year or two of indies really, you know, taking it home for us. Because whenever a AAA game got delayed, we as a collective, with Game Pass and with every other, you know, service under the sun, we were getting a lot more indies showcased. You know, it was kind of like this week's Xbox showcase didn't have a big AAA thing, but they really wanted to show us these 3 interesting indie games. And I really thought that like games like, I don't know, like there's so many, and Johnno, you can, I'm sure, highlight like, you know, massive indie games that like maybe you didn't get a chance to play this year. As you were saying, you're getting around to it now, but there's been so many things coming out that it's been a really fun time to play games. Like I've been playing a little game called Unpacking recently, which was just like a game about unpacking boxes, and I was delighted playing it. It was a fantastic experience, you know, but I probably wouldn't have played that if I had a AAA thing to play that week. So yeah, just a little bit disappointed to not see any indie apart from best indie, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't really like anything that's after being put up, if I'm honest. I either don't like it or I haven't played it, and I have planned to play it. But I'm just looking through the list here, and it's very disappointing.
Yeah.
And my whole shtick is I'm quite the variety. Like I could be playing one thing one week and something completely different the following.
Sure.
And nothing. Like Monster Hunter Rise maybe, Shin Megami Tensei 5 maybe.
This is an RPG, I assume.
Yeah, best role playing game.
Sure. Like Cyberpunk is in there, I believe, isn't it?
In role playing,
best music and oh, it's in for best role playing as well, is it?
I think so. Yeah,
it's in for best music and score.
I think that's like their sneaky way of saying I don't think we'll get away with putting it in with the best game ever award, but I think we can sneak it in here.
Hold up, right? Best family game, WarioWare, Get It Together, Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, Pokemon Snap, Mario Party Superstars. It Takes Two. Isn't that about a couple breaking up?
That's the weird thing. That whole game is about divorce.
You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck?
It's like, it's cute and colourful. Anyway, we can go on all day about this. So there is some very strange choices here, and I think we'll probably end up talking about that as we dive into the topic. But how about we just do that? Let's just jump head first into this topic, which is, as I mentioned, our Game Awards necessary. So I think the first thing I want to do is kind of take the temperature of the room here and just ask, how do we as individuals feel about Game Awards? Like, do we look forward to them? Do we watch them? That kind of thing. So I'm going to start with Shane, going to go to Johnno, and then I'll reveal myself. So Shane, tell me, when I say Game Awards, you say...
No, I thought, right, look, when Game Awards first came around and this sort of thing, I was like, this is cool. We are finally getting up there with the big boys. Like, the movies have Oscars, TV has the Golden Globes and stuff. We are finally being recognized as an entertainment and art medium that deserves praise and blah blah blah. I thought it was another stepping stone in video games are becoming more public and mainstream and less about the pasty guy in the basement, playing whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then as the years went on, the Game Awards has devolved into the same industry circle jerk that the Oscars are, that the Golden Globes are. It's just all the people from the industry that are getting awarded going, look at us. Look at how amazing we are. We made amazing things because we're amazing. You didn't do this. We did. Here's our award because we're so good.
Yeah.
And that's what it's devolved into, which is a bit sad, like, because I don't, as much as I like film and TV and stuff, I don't watch any of those awards either, because they're the same bloody thing, and the Game Awards wore thin with me with that kind of thing very fast. It was a great novelty at first, and now it's just, whatever, I'll catch the highlights, see what won Game of the Year, see what won in a couple of categories that I'm interested in, like Best RPG or something, and then I'm out the gap. It's like 10 minutes of my day once a year.
Yeah. I agree with you. Like, I think it was a major step forward in terms of, video games as a medium in the sense of it being legitimized and being recognized. And yeah, I think it had a huge opportunity that I don't know whether they were successful with. But Johnno, what about you? When I say Game Awards, you say?
No, not a chance. I think it's the biggest waste of money.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, it's monumentous in the fact that it is destigmatizing a very lucrative business, but it's also taking away from the nerd aspect of it, and it's making it mainstream and popular. I do like the fact that I wasn't actually aware that this was in it, but I do like the fact that they include mobile games in it. Yeah. Because that was one of the biggest things when I was working in GameStop, was like, I had older people coming in and buying Facebook cards, and I was like, oh, what are you playing? I didn't actually realise we had these. They're like, oh, I'm playing Mafia Wars, or I'm playing Farmville, and I'm not arse waiting. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And they're like, I wouldn't really be called a gamer. And I was like, no, you're playing a game and you enjoy it. Like, it destigmatizes that even further than destigmatizing video games, because people can get away with playing games on their phone and they're not considered a gamer. But you can download BlueStack on your PC and you can get the entire Android market and play any game that's on the Android market on your PC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's good, but I hate the Game Awards. The simple fact that Hades was nominated, was it even nominated? The simple fact that Hades didn't win Game of the Year the year that it came up is mind-blowing to me.
How did Game of the Year last year?
I'm trying so hard not to go off on this.
I'm going to Google that as we're talking.
A rant of swearing here. How the hell did Last of Us 2 take it from it?
Like, I think it might have.
It did. Last of Us 2 got Game of the Year and Hades didn't. Hades is an absolute masterpiece. It did get nominated.
No, yeah, so Hades definitely got nominated. Last of Us Part 2 took it, alright.
Oh, yeah, how? Like,
yeah.
I wasn't a fan of The Last of Us Part 1. I thought the story was very good in The Last of Us. I thought it was phenomenal storytelling. The gameplay was trash.
Yeah,
Why the fuck would you put a linear progression path into a story game like that when you could have done an open world environment and just, like, put, like, I'm grabbing this pipe and I'm grabbing this blade. Here, let's throw Dead Rising into this and just make your own weapons.
I think there's a difference though between taste and general like worthiness of the title. I think there is a case of like, we could argue that they could have gone a different direction all day long, but that's a matter of taste at that point, because a lot of people were incredibly happy with that product, and as we've talked in depth about The Last of Us 2 in the early days of this podcast, and I have mixed feelings about it. I can't tell whether I'm happy I experienced it or not, to be honest. But like the one things I will say that probably put that game up in the running was it pushed a lot of boundaries on a technological level for video games. Like,
Right.
I don't know any other video game that has the level of mocap and facial animations and general. Now, sometimes it all fell out of place, but like the ambition of that game was palpable. But here's the thing: is I would agree with you that Hades should have won in that like if Hades is in an arena for best game, it should win every time. It doesn't matter what you put in there, because there's not a damn aspect of that game that has a flaw.
Hades, like I said prior to we starting or earlier on, that I have 90 plus hours in the first month of playing. I don't think I've actually played much more of it outside of 90 hours. But to finish that game, or to even like get to the prologue of that game,
Sure.
you've 10 playthroughs, 10 completed playthroughs
Yeah.
before you can expand on the story.
But even if you don't do 10 playthroughs, you can tell from the get-go that this is something special.
Yeah.
But we're getting into the weeds now. We're talking about Hades. Back to the Game Awards itself. Like, you say that, no, you just don't have any interest. Now,
As Shane said,
we've discussed about the
it's-
choices, but is there anything else?
Yeah, it's just who has the bigger pocket, and when it comes to it, like, out of all them games that are there, that is not what I wanted to look at. Out of all of them games that are there, maybe 2, 3 deserve to be there. Psychonauts
Sure.
2 was supposed to be phenomenal. Metroid Dread, like, absolutely took it this year, in my opinion.
Great game.
Played very little of it, but I loved it. It
fantastic.
really encapsulated what Metroid was. It's about enticing fear, but in a modern day event.
For sure.
And It Takes Two, I didn't play it, but from what I did see of it, it's fantastic. Village was very acclaimed this year. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, it's a Ratchet and Clank game. What more can be really said except it was a PlayStation exclusive, and
It feels like filler. It kind of feels like they just fill spaces. But like,
Yeah.
I wonder how much of it is just it's just kind of, money bagging, as we were kind of alluding to earlier. But
Yeah.
I think, Johnno, is it safe to say, I can kind of get back to you then when we're talking about choices, that your main gripe seems to be around selection?
like massively, because as I said, I'm catching up on everything. Because I wasn't working, I didn't have money to buy games, so I stopped looking at things that were coming out and what were out, and I focused on what I had. Because there was just no chance I was going to pick a AAA title when that was like 4 months of like anything that I could scrape together to put into a saving for an emergency kind of thing. And like right there, you have a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Psychonauts 2, that wouldn't be an indie at this stage, would it? Like the first one, well,
That's a whole can of worms we can open up here now. But like,
no, but you know what I mean.
technically,
Like,
but yeah.
Metroid Dread, Nintendo, It Takes Two, Deathloop. Like, if you look at best game direction and game of the year, and fuck it, best narrative, you have Deathloop in all 3, It Takes Two in all 3, Psychonauts 2 in all 3, and Ratchet and Clank is in 2 of them. Like,
Yeah. It's not a very spread out thing.
you know what I mean? Like,
And
that's
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, when you're talking about selections, like the biggest problem, and we're seeing it for sure this year, is that like there seems to be like this AAA crutch that like a game must hit a AAA standard for it to be concluded. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to share kind of my insight, because it ties into what you're saying.
far right.
Is that in terms of the Game Awards, like, I want to champion this. Like, I want this industry, or at least I always did want this industry to be taken more seriously. And I found it important to be able to talk about video games as art. I found, we're kind of past that threshold now, thankfully.
Yes.
And I always found it important to talk about games in the same way as TV and movies, in that, like, not everything is on a pedestal and not everything should be put on a pedestal, but when something is worthy, we should acknowledge it, and we should have the vocabulary at hand to be able to distinguish why something is bad and why something is great, and not just say shotgun terms that are fueled from console wars or whatever. And I always thought that having something like this that brings us together as a community could be really beneficial. And I was really, really hoping, and I don't think it happened, but I was really hoping that the Game Awards would avoid that stigma, as Shane mentioned earlier, with the Emmys, with the Oscars and the Golden Globes and, you know, MTV Music Awards, whatever. It starts off very true. You know, it starts off as this great idea, and it's about the industry, and it's about celebrating the industry, and then shareholders get involved, and then everything starts costing $1 million, and then, you know, yada yada yada, and you get to this point where, you know, if you want that famous guest, you've got to jump through these hoops, and if you want this, you've got to do this, and after a while the vision gets lost, you know. And I mean, yes, you have a very flashy end product, but like, what did you really serve by it? And honestly, looking at these selections, and that's kind of where my point is ultimately, is, as I said earlier, I really thought that this was going to be the year that we're going to have a really wholesome, lovely Game Awards, because we didn't have as many AAA games for the, you know, industry to pull from, to put into every category. We had so many high quality indie games that I really thought this was going to be their year, and we're going to see a lot of smaller teams crying going up to get their awards. Just put Psychonauts, which is great, don't get me wrong, but like, put that in every category, put Deathloop in every category, you know, like, it's just disappointing, and I think it's a very strong sign of where the Game Awards is in terms of its legitimacy, let's say.
Definitely. The Game Awards is what I would consider the mainstream, now the mainstream side of the gaming industry. And it is devolving into what the mainstream side of every entertainment industry is. Yeah. And it's all just a big elaborate show that, like you said, shareholders get involved. We're like, how can the Game Awards turn a profit this year? Because we turned a profit last year, and then people invested, and now we need to turn a profit again, and etc. And how do we get the famous face to make people view? How do we put out there and put out promos and go, oh, we have, I don't know, whoever, I don't even know people, a Dr. Disrespect or something. I don't even know if they, you know, we have him presenting awards, or we have this person and we have that person, everybody tune in, spike the viewership, loads of ads, everything, blah blah blah.
The only thing I can say about the selection that's there is, has the last year warranted anything outside of these?
Yeah, like
again, this is coming back to the thing of, I have just gotten, for lack of better phrasing, I have just got back into mainstream gaming because I've been going off of legacy titles for so long.
Sure. Yeah, there's been you know, when you're on the spot, you can never think, but there has been a slew of, as I mentioned, indie games. I'm sure if we went through the list, there'd be plenty of AAA games that we could or AA games even, that we could kind of fit into those categories, you know, and that wouldn't be any problem. But like, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, it really does seem like, unless you can, the fact that there is a term for best indie is so nebulous at this point, is that like, you know, if Psychonauts 2 can be included, which comes from it started off as an indie game, and then they got bought by Microsoft, and then like, it's like, what are they now? But like, the fact that they have best indie means that, does that mean indie can't be anywhere else? And this shows that no, they can't, you know. So it's disappointing. But anyway, and I think one last gripe I will throw here whilst we're putting our gripes out there is, every year, and I bet you we're going to see it amped up to 10 this year, every year we see, if you look at the nominees online, and I advise anyone that's listening to this that has an interest, please do, there's about 30 categories. There's a lot of awards. You generally see about 8 of them handed out throughout the entire show, and the rest is like video game announcements, which, you know, it's cool in a way, but like that, or music performances, or just Jeff Keighley talking shit to Hideo Kojima for some reason, you know. And it's like the big games, like the big AAA, you know, video games that didn't need any more circle jerking, get all the show, and then you don't see best game direction, or you don't see best, you know, audio score or whatever. They just flash it up on a screen for like 3 seconds to say, oh, and these 5 awards were given out as this, and we move on. And I mean, like, that was pointless. Why even have it?
It's a video game award. It's not an advertisement. Fuck off with your ads. Like, no. They hold no purpose in, like, next year, coming out soon. is
for
trite.
sure, for sure,
get rid of it
for sure. But like
you're
the
talking about
argument
music
here
though.
But the argument is like, surely these awards should be used as a platform by which, you know, smaller games that deserve to be
100%,
you know, put on a platform have that opportunity. And like people, like if you're John Call of Duty FIFA sitting at home and you happen to watch this and you see like, you know, like probably what's hailed as being the best indie game of this year probably didn't make the cut for this. Inscription is supposed to be a mind-bending indie game that's going to change how games are thought about. Like everybody I've heard talking about it has these like phenomenal things to say about it, and like he would never hear of that game, and this would be an opportunity for like an award to put it up there and have the guy that made it come up and share his story and inspire people. It's like no, we're just going to hear about Deathloop, and that guy gets like a tiny credit.
But even you know? Like Phasmophobia, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but oh my god, did that like explode. Like people made their career this year. Like Insim, Dusk the Viking, just to name two, like made their name on Twitch from that game alone.
That would have been last year, wouldn't it?
Late last year into this year.
Oh, okay.
Oh no.
It's hard to know. Time is a flat circle over the last 2 years. It's impossible to know.
But like,
but I understand what you mean.
And just touching off the music as well, like in the likes of Emmys and Oscars, you have live orchestras. Like, yeah, even for a homegrown talent, we've got Emer Noon, one of the best conductors in video game music, full stop. Like, and why not just like ask Emer to fly over and conduct an orchestra, like intro, have her conduct a song, like Video Games Live would do it. Like,
yeah. Well, why do that when you can get churches to play again? You know,
no.
Even so, but Sony did that at one of their E3
Sony did do that. It was really cool.
Like 2 or 3 years ago, they had a live orchestra right in front of the stage, and it was amazing.
That was
like
phenomenal. That was one of the best E3 things I've seen in a long time.
It makes no sense. Like again, I'll touch back on my education. My argument for Final Fantasy VII's music was basically Nobuo Uematsu is the modern day Beethoven for music.
Sure.
His compositions are absolutely mind-bendingly brilliant, in my opinion. And he's not the only one. Like, again, Darren Korb, like, different style. I'm Googling his name real quick. I don't want to say...
I don't want to cut you off at the knees here at all. I do want us to get back onto this, but I think we're kind of straying away from the idea here of, you know, the Game Awards and their necessity. But I do want to have you back on again to talk about your thesis and because like we need to have a music episode and have you on for sure.
Definitely.
You could educate us fools. But no, for sure, like that live element, like, you know, would really tie it all together. But I think we've really laid out an awful lot of grievances here, you know, and I think they're shared by a lot of people, I feel, you know.
Yes.
But the only thing I wanted to ask then, right? Because we're not saying is it good or bad. What we're asking is, are the Game Awards necessary? You know, like, is this something as an industry we need? You know, like, and I guess you could ask the same question about the Oscars or the Emmys or whatever. But like, that's why I kind of wanted to ask here is, what's our feelings on this? Like, do we feel like it just needs to be done better? It is something that we kind of need is a strong word, but you know, like the industry could really benefit from, or is it something that should just be, you know, gone away altogether? It's an antiquated idea.
That's a real tough one to really even approach in that sense. Like, the idea of nominating the biggest people in the world for the biggest budget in the world is always going to be redundant, because like, surely if you throw enough shit at a wall, it's going to stick. Like, you throw enough money at somebody just to give you a good review, like, they're going to give you 100%.
Anything's possible, but
you know what I mean? Like, and that does boil down to personal preference as well. I'm sure people are looking at that list and going, "Oh my god, this is amazing! These are the best games that have ever been released."
So let me pose this to you then: if that is the case, would you argue then that if the structure was different, in the sense that it wasn't just AAA games getting all the hype, if it was looked objectively and it was like, you know, if no AAA games were better than 6 indie games in particular, then it would just be indie games.
Yeah.
Like, if that structure was in place, that it was like, no, like, we cannot under any circumstance, put any game on this list just because it looks lovely and because it had the biggest budget. It genuinely comes down to these are the top 6 video games. One of them's a mobile game. One of them's a browser game. One of them's like, you know, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be specified as anything. It's just literally these are arguably the 6 best things that came out this year. Would you feel then it would be
in my opinion, I feel that if indie games is given its own category, AAA should also be given its own category. I feel like the best overall video game shouldn't be who has the deepest pockets, because this is exactly what this list feels like.
Yeah, that's very true. The fact that they segregated like that is unfair.
I don't feel, and that's touching off what you said. It's only when you said that it came into my head. But I don't feel like... I feel like the list that's presented for best video game is literally who has the deepest pockets. And
yes, or at least for your opportunity to be up there.
Exactly. And
for sure.
My opinion on that is you have not played a single one of these games.
Sure.
You need to get a team of people to sit down and play. No one's going to play all these games, but even look at a list and say, right, these are the top most acclaimed games outside of AAA and play 50 of them. Get a team to play 50 of them.
From my understanding, right, this is how it works. From my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but from the little research I have done and listening to people in the industry, is the Game Awards provide the nominees to known figures in the gaming landscape. So your massive podcasters such as Giant Bomb or Game Informer, or, you know, I think some streamers and some, you know, they put all of these nominees out to various teams and collate their feedback on, you know, so Giant Bomb will pick their, you know, game of the year of the 6 that are there. They don't get to pick any of the 6, like, or, you know, bring in other ones. It's just what is there they choose from, and those then get added to the votes or whatever. But like, I think, wouldn't it be a fantastic opportunity if they're already reaching out to all these people who have teams of people who are playing video games and reviewing the games, and not everybody on the team has played everything, but they're doing game of the year discussions. They're doing the hard work of like, what really needs to be shouted out here, what is a genuinely great game. Like, why not go a step further and say, well, if we're asking for their opinion anyway, how about Giant Bomb, what are your top 6 games of the year? And it doesn't matter what they're, just tell us what they are, and then do that with everyone, and what everyone gets the highest ranking is by far obviously the best game, you know. At least it gives some bit more sense.
There is one issue with that, and I'm not sure what company it was, but when Resident Evil 2 got launched, the remake, some reviewer slated it, saying it was an unfinished game, it played like crap, and as it transpired, the person that was reviewing it only put 35 to 40 minutes into it.
Sure.
Didn't finish the game, didn't complete it, didn't play the B-side, which, spoiler alert for anyone that's about to watch, take your headsets off now if you haven't played it. I'm sure it's well past the sell-by date at this stage. It's the exact same, with a couple of different weapons. But if, like, this is a massive company that put this review out, if they can publish an article like that and people lap that up, like,
but we're not going by Metacritic scores here.
No, but you get what I'm...
One bad review, but I know what you're saying.
There's still room for that there. Like, I think in this sense...
Who watches The Watchmen is the question.
Yeah.
You know, like, who... Like, is there like a team of 100 monkeys out there with typewriters that are going to like, you know, like, there's no perfect solution, I don't think. But but there should be more input into what the fucking 6 are.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's the big thing here, I think.
Yeah.
For
sure. I'm going to show you my final 2 cents on the Game Awards.
Yes.
So, in its current state, it is unnecessary. Right now, it is a surface level circle jerk of pageantry that's just like, you know, it's like, and it's even at times it's like, it's almost like sports, you know, like I don't know how, like, what sports you're into, but have you ever watched like the UFC and they're like, oh, now we go to the Octagon Cam brought to you by Bud Light, and it's the same. Now we go to Indie Game of the Year brought to you by fucking Cornflakes or whatever the hell is sponsoring the Game Awards.
Gamers
you know
love
I mean?
them
like,
cornflakes.
Yeah, exactly. Get your gamer fuel cornflakes or whatever. But like, and that is what the problem with it is. And again, pigeonholing games into categories
Yeah.
Doing it by genre and category is pointless. A mobile game is still a game. An indie game is still a game. God, you could nearly throw board games in there. They're still games.
Yeah.
I know, like, you know what I mean? It's still, like you've already covered, lads, a game of the year should be a game of the year regardless of the platform or genre it falls into.
For sure.
And the pigeonholing is the problem.
Yeah.
That is the main problem.
Can I try my living best to put a point on this based on what we've all said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm getting the impression that we don't collectively feel that it's an altogether bad idea, but the execution is incredibly wanting. And it does seem as if there's an awful lot of non-legitimate bias going on, you know, where, as Johnno, you had said there, if you've put enough money into your game, there's a good chance that it's going to be on this list. You know, there's just too much of that going on. If we could just strip it all back, and if we could just have an award show that didn't have to be billions spent on it, that was legitimately about each category, where all of the nominees were legitimately chosen by people in the know, regardless of platform, unless that's a specific platform award. And if you actually got to see every award and everybody getting their awards, rather than just like, here's the big AAA awards and then we're going to just very quickly show you credits of who got the others. Like, I think they could do an lot of work, but I think as a whole we've come to the conclusion that in its current state the video game awards aren't necessary. Am I correct in saying that?
No, I'd agree 100%.
Very, very much.
Okay,
very,
with that
very
caveat, if they took our notes and went away and just brought it back to the core idea, I think there is something wonderful there.
If they championed video games, if all they need to do is champion video games and nothing more, we'd all be happy. But they don't. It's all about sponsors and money and advertising.
Exactly. So video game awards, by our humble podcast sense, are not necessary, but we do feel that there is a place for them if they can just go back to the drawing board. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So, last week we asked the question around, are video games addictive? And we had a great discussion with Petso last week around that. And I just wanted to answer, or not even answer, read out a couple of community touch points on that. As always, we reach out into our community, whether it's in our Discord, which is in the link below, or our Facebook group, which is also in the link below, the Casual Game Community, where we asked them also the same question: are video games addictive? And we got a lot of responses, and I'm only going to read out two because we are running off time. So if I don't read your comment, please don't be offended. Do keep commenting. I'm sure I'll get around to you next week. Stephen Keeley gave us the response: games can be addictive like anything else which triggers pleasure in the brain, but it's not something that will happen to everyone. I feel like most I read that wrong. I feel like most things, such as gambling addictions, drinking, etc., there is either a pre-existing disposition to this sort of behavior, or the person might have personal issues that might be eased by being stuck in a game world. And that's very true. Like, we touched on some of that as well. There's a lot of escapism, there's a lot of like dopamine things. It's all in there, yeah, for sure, but your mileage will vary, to Stephen's point. And lastly, Niall Dunn, friend of the show: video games can absolutely be addictive, some much more so than others. Anything that can cause a big dopamine release in the brain can be addictive. Plenty of times I have gotten completely immersed into a game and forgot to eat for most of the day, and then hunger hits like a truck and you glance at the clock and realize it's 3 a.m, especially in MMO games. Then there are plenty that are easy to pick up and put down. So it depends both on the game as well as the person playing. Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. But everybody has their own poison, you know, and video games are so vast that you're going to fall into one track or the other, and eventually you'll find that track that, oh crap, I've been playing House Simulator for House Flipper for like 12 hours now.
Yeah. Yeah. Guilty.
Yeah.
I feel called out, Phil. Sure. Not going to lie.
I mean, you and me too, brother. With that, let's jump into the community question of the week. So, if you don't mind, play that thing.
Question of the week.
So, this week's question of the week comes in from Stephen Keeley. Actually, again, I feel bad for reading his comment now. I could have picked somebody else. Oh, well, Stephen gets a double dip this week. And Stephen asks us, what game or scene actually has given you a strong feeling or reaction. Dom finding his wife and what he does after that in Gears of War honestly made me feel gutted for the character. So clearly this is like, what scene in a video game really struck you, hit home? I think I have a really obvious one, but I'm going to ask you guys. We won't dissect the scene too much, but I think if we throw out the scenes, people will generally know what we're talking about. So, John, what about you?
Ori and the Blind Forest. First 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that first 5 minutes.
First 5 minutes, I had to turn my camera off for 5 minutes. I was crying like a little baby.
That is heart-wrenching.
I
I
lost my grandfather last year and I lost my mother 9 years ago, but the way it played out, I was just like, nope, can't do this.
Yeah.
This hits me too hard.
Yeah, and you know it's coming as well. Even the first time you play it, you're like, oh, this is not going to end well, and then they just pull it out. Oh.
Like, I think if my VOD was still there, like, the run up to it, I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh, you did it.
No, it wasn't. They did it. They did it.
Yeah.
I replayed that recently, and it's still as impactful, even though I knew it was coming. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Shane, what about you?
I have one very obvious one, which harkens back to something we were talking about earlier on. It is, of course, the opening of The Last of Us, the Joel incident. Which,
yeah.
Like, I mean, say what you will about the gameplay of that game, and stuff, but in terms of a story and that scene, like that was primo storytelling and delivered.
That first opening half an hour is fantastic. You know, that's like, I have my problems with The Last of Us as a game, you know, mechanics wise and stuff.
But the story is not one.
Yeah. And that half an hour is just like you walking around as a little girl and you're discovering things, and there's very little mechanically going on. So it's just story, and like it's all happening around you, and you're really just controlling a camera. But spoilers for the first half an hour of a game, but like Joel, girl in the arms, like holy crap, that really did hit hard. And I think that was a feeling I think that the second game tried to
emulate but failed.
And not only in the first half an hour, but like throughout the entire game. It felt like every hour there was another like heart-wrenching moment that for me just kind of wore me down more so than made it impactful. But that was going to be my choice too. So double whammy with the first half an hour of The Last of Us.
I do have one that's not a sad one, because we've all chosen sad ones, and another one that kind of made me go, oh fuck, oh crap, like I didn't see that coming at all. Maybe it was my idiot teenage brain or whatever, but BioShock Infinite, the big twist in BioShock Infinite, the whole thing you discover in BioShock Infinite. My tiny little mind was like,
yeah.
You know? And it's just an example of a scene that got me without being a sad scene. You know, it got me in a different way with a different emotion. Rather than sadness, it was like mind melt, or what, I did not see this coming.
I think that's like a lot of people look back fondly on that game, and I think that's a big part of the reason.
Yes, definitely.
You know, that twist really does pay off in the end. But that's a good example.
Diablo 3 as well. The plot to Diablo 3 really hit me.
Oh really?
Yeah, it got me hard. I became a spoiler for anyone that hasn't played Diablo 3. It's out a long time. You really should have. The fact that you're building up with Leah so much throughout the game, and then she becomes the embodiment and the reincarnation of Diablo. I was just like, what the hell? It's like you could see you would drop hints here and there, but they never alluded to it, and then it just happened, and I was like, no.
It's really cliche as well. I never played Diablo 3, sorry, I'm not talking about that, just in case you were going to jump through your camera.
Spoilers, I am sorry.
At a game you were discussing earlier, Final Fantasy VII, like it's really cliche to bring up the example, but like I remember being 10 years old and Aerith getting murdered and going like, I've spent so much time leveling up this character at this point, and they've just straight up murdered her. I was like, what the hell? Like, and that actually took me back. I was like, no, she's coming back. She's going to be an hour's time. I'm going to walk around the corner. She'll be there, and it never happened.
Like,
you know,
I intentionally didn't say Final Fantasy VII because of how, like, on Herds and Nerds, like, if I even breach the subject of Final Fantasy VII, they have to shut me off. Like, this podcast will go on until 2 a.m.
Yeah,
and
that actually makes me think. I feel bad now if I ruined anything for anyone that's going to play the remake, but it does look like they're going a different direction there, so it's probably not as much of a
My
spoiler.
dude, if somebody hasn't played the original, if they played the remake, there is something wrong. I apologize if I have just offended anyone, but get your arse in gear and play the original. It's better.
It still holds up. With that, I think we've gotten a lot of good selections there. We have The Last of Us, we had Ori and the Blind Forest, we had Diablo 3, and we had Final Fantasy 7, and Bioshock Infinite. With that, let's take it on home, shall we? So, if you have been with us for this entire podcast, thank you so very, very much. If you have never been here before, you, my friend, stumbled across what is by far the most casual of gaming podcasts on the interwebs, a casual gamecast, if you will. And if you have been here before, thank you again for stopping by again. If you can do us one little favor, if you've made it this far, clearly we don't poison your eardrums. So if you could like the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to your podcatcher of choice, leave us a review, write in the comments, just brighten our day a little bit, show us that little bit of support that I know you guys have been showing us for this entire 1.5 year journey that we've been on, and we really, really appreciate you for doing it. But the most important thing you can do, and all of these things I say are always free, is tell a friend. And we like to go around and we like to ask whoever is joining us this week who somebody should tell. So, Johnno, in the past we've told people to tell their local butcher, tell their TD, tell their mam, tell their boss. Who should our lovely audience tell this week about the Casual Gamecast?
Alright, so assuming you've if you're in college, assuming you've a Tannoy system, go down and ask your receptionist to put it across the college campus. Or
put it on the intercom.
If you work in somewhere that has a Tannoy
playlist.
if you have a Tannoy system, just put the podcast on in the background. Nice. Put it down low so it's subliminal advertising. Just
nice.
Creep it into people's minds.
Yeah.
Or if you run a ghost radio station, make sure to play us at least once a week.
Yeah. A pirate radio station.
There you that's the words I was looking for.
Like a 10-mile radius of just like CGC all night long. Oh man, that's fantastic. Yes, I do love that. Play it in your college intercoms, ladies and gentlemen. We give you full permission, and it's the right thing to do. Anyway, guys, with that, I think it's about time that we let you go. So, thank you again for joining. I've been Phil, and I've been joined by the wonderful Shane Bowe. Shane, please say goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
And we've been joined by the wonderful Johnno, aka 4-Leaf Gamer. Johnno, will you please tell people where they can find you, and then please tell them that you love them, and goodbye.
I love you all! I am Johnno, 4-Leaf Gamer, or 4-Leaf, whichever you prefer to call me. I do a variety of streams of games from horror, JRPG, indie, roguelike, and retro games with a bit of speedrunning in between over on twitch.tv/4Leaf Gamer, all one word.
Fantastic. And if you're with us here on YouTube, you've been watching him for the last hour or so. So, all the best. Right, guys, take care, stay safe, but most of all, stay casual. Bye!